my little paintbrush. Today we get to paint Among Us, and I'm really excited about this one. It's super fun, and the best part is you can personalize it any way you want. So make your own character. You can even trace on a hat before we get started. Just pause this video and do that real quick. That would be a fun addition. But a few tips before we get right into this one. Be sure that you pause this video or rewind it. If I'm going a little too fast for you, that's okay. There's no shame in that. You do not have to keep up with me. And remember that all of our paintings are going to be a little bit different, so no comparing your final piece to mine or maybe someone else that's painting with you. Just have a good time and enjoy the process, okay? So I'm going to grab a big flat brush and I'm going to get it wet in some water. Maybe your flat brush is a little smaller than this, and that's okay. It just depends on what you're comfortable with, how big your hand is, and how you handle that brush. All right, here is our palette of paint. These are the colors I'm going to be working with, and we are going to dive right into our red Among Us character. So I'm going to load my brush pretty generously with some red paint, and I'll just begin filling this guy or girl in here. And the great thing about this particular piece is our background is going to be a nice dark color. So in the event that we get some of this red or whatever color you're using into your background, you don't have to worry about that because it's going to be covered right up, okay? So use your water anytime your paint is feeling a bit sticky. Acrylic paint needs that water, okay? And we'll come back to this red here in a minute, so it might feel like it's not getting enough coverage, or maybe you're seeing all those brush strokes. Don't worry about that. We're going to come back to it. Right now we're just getting that first main coat of paint on here. And again, I don't want to be super sloppy, obviously, but I'm not going to worry too much about getting that red into my background. I'm just going to do the best I can here. Now I do want to be careful not to get it into that big eyepiece. I feel like this is a goggle or something. So it is going to be white. So I'm going to do my best not to get red in there. It would be a little bit trickier to cover that up. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful around that area. Of course, if you get some red or another color in there, don't spend too much time concerned about those things. Really just make the decision to move on, let it dry, and come back to it. Okay, so let's wash that brush really, really good. We're going to be using it with some white paint here in a minute. So I'm going to rinse it really good, wipe it off on a towel, make sure I don't have any red paint hiding, and then get some clean water on it. And we're going to come up to our little bubble where this character is saying it wasn't me, and we're going to do a little shadow. So I'm going to load with some white paint, put a little black on it, brush that through a few times, and then come up here to my little bubble, and I'm going to go around this bubble with that edge. See that? It just kind of fades into this grayish color. That's super fun, adds a nice shadow. So anytime I need to load my brush, I'll load it the same way. And anytime if it gets a little dark on you, load with just the white paint, come back around it. Remember, you've got the background that's going to be nice and dark. So any little mistakes, you don't have to worry about those right now. You're going to clean those up in just a minute. Okay, so we've got a little bit of white and black on our brush right now, and I'm going to keep playing with those colors. So I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm going to move some black over and a nice portion of blue, and I'm going to make just a really nice dark blue. Okay, then I'm going to add a good chunk of white to it. Okay, maybe even some more. I want it fairly light here. Okay, just about right there is the color I'm going to go for. Now I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to wipe it out. Okay, so I didn't wash it, I just wiped that color out. And I'm going to take this color now and I'm going to paint the base of what I'm calling my goggle. Okay, I'm going to paint kind of like a smiley face shape. Come up this edge a little bit. Okay, now I'm just going to do that much of it. Now I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to wipe that color out again. Okay, so I didn't wash it, just wipe it. Now I'm going to just add white to my brush and I'm going to start to blend on top of that little smiley face line down. Okay, I'm just going to start blending those lines here. Keep adding white to my brush and blending it down. Okay, maybe you've got to add a little bit more of that darker color if you've lost it. We're going to blend. Okay, you've got to work quickly while that paint is nice and wet. Okay, so now that we've got kind of a blend starting to happen, I'm going to wash my brush out. And again, I'm working quickly because I don't want this to dry. Now I'm going to load with just white paint and I'm going to start to work up in that area, the top of that eye piece. And as I come down, I'm going to put half my brush in that blue. I'm going to start to blend that down. Okay, I want a nice contrast between the light blue that's kind of on top and the white, and as it shifts down to that darker blue. Okay, but I got to work that paint. That's the trick. I got to work that paint back and forth in order to get that nice blend. Okay, so work my lines here, and anytime you need to go back and really build up that dark base again, load with that dark color and build it back up. Okay, sometimes we lose it pretty easily. We're just going to build it back up. There we go. Got that nice kind of ombre look to that now. Good job, guys. Okay, that can be a tricky part, and the trick to it is to keep your brush moving. If you stop and let your paint dry, you won't get a good blend. All right, so we're gonna wash our brush now, and we're going to go back to our fabulous red character here. So let's go ahead and quickly add another layer to this. Now, if you're not doing red, maybe you're doing blue, maybe you're doing yellow, you're going to want to have a darker version of that color, okay? So be sure that if you're doing yellow, you're painting your character with a light yellow and you have some dark yellow saved on the side. So maybe you have to add white to your yellow and lighten it so you have some dark, or maybe do it with blue. The reason I say this is because after we get this layer on here, just like that, we're going to add some shadowing to our character, and because mine is red, I'm going to be using black as the shadow. If you have a blue character, you want to do a light blue with a dark blue shadow. If you have pink, you want to do light pink with a dark pink shadow, okay? But red is tricky because if we did a light red, we would have pink. And so instead of doing a light red, we're going to just do red, and we're going to use black to shadow. So here we go. I've got my brush filled with red paint here. Now I'm going to dip the corner in black. I'm going to pull that brush on my plate a few times until it gets nice and dark. And then I'm going to start to paint the nice shadow in all the way down this side. Now I'm going to keep working my red paint into it so that it's not too dark. Okay, I don't want it to take over the painting, so I'm going to work that pretty consistently. And every time I load, come right back up. I'm going to curve around the top here. So this is the step that you would do with the darker version of your Among Us character. Whatever that is for you, you're going to use darker color to do these shadows. Okay? And then I'm going to blend, blend, blend. I don't want this really sharp, dark line, okay? And I want to kind of pull it out just a little bit. Okay? All right, awesome. Get my brush wet. I can tell it's getting kind of dried out. So some more red, some more black. Okay, now I'm going to come and do the same thing underneath his really nice big eye. Careful, you don't want to ruin your eye. You've spent a lot of work on that. I'm sure it's not called an eye. You guys probably know what that's called, but I'm going to call it an eye. Okay, and we're just blending, blending. Nice shadow there. Okay, now we're going to come and we're going to do this little piece right here. It's going to have a little dark shadow there. You can build that up a little bit if you want. And then we're going to go ahead and go underneath it right here. And again, just really blending that out. Okay, so when I load my brush, I'm really pushing it through that black to get that nice shadow, okay? And anytime you think, oh no, I got too much on there, come through with a nice big scoop of red or whatever color you were using and just blend it through. All right, guys, this is looking fantastic. Okay, now the last place I'm going to add some of that is just the other side of this line. I want to shadow that right there as well. So I'm going to come over here and we'll really define this line here in a minute, but for now, I'm just going to do this other side here. Okay? And that'll make a lot more sense when we go in and do our final lines. Okay, let's wash our brush. And it's time to just dive right in to our background. Okay, what I like to do, just for the sake of kind of marrying all these colors together, is I just grab whatever blue I have left and I mix it with my black, just for fun. It kind of takes the harshness of the black away, and it kind of goes a little bit with his blue shading on his eyepiece. So now I'm just going to fill in my background. Be sure to wrap your canvas as you go so it's nice and complete. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go pretty quick here with the first few strokes because I'm not up close to my main character yet, and so I can kind of go quickly around it, and then as I get close I know I need to slow down, but this way I can get the gist of the paint on my canvas without having to go too slow. So once I get that on there, I'm going to now slow down my brush stroke, and I'm going to carefully go around everything else because I don't want to mess up all of that hard work. So I'm going to slow down quite a bit I'm going to make sure I have all the shapes in that I want. So up around this bubble. Be careful because your black can shrink your character. It can shrink your bubble because it's so strong. It can quite quickly take away from all of your work. It'll cover it right up. So don't get too crazy close to it, and slow down as we go around. Nice and easy. Like I said, this is a great time to just kind of cover up anything. I'm going to stick with my big brush, but if you're feeling uncomfortable with the size of brush you're using in certain areas, you can totally switch your brush out. I find that the newer you are to painting, the more comfortable you are with a smaller brush, which is totally fine. Just remember that that doesn't always mean control. A lot of times people think a small brush means that they're more in control, and it could very well be the opposite. I feel much more in control with a large brush myself. I use the bristles to my advantage and the shape of the brush. As the bristles fan out, I can really utilize that pressure to get a good shape. Got a little clump right there, I'll just push it aside. Don't be afraid to use your fingers, they can be a great tool. Come around here. Don't forget to breathe. Of course, I'm filming, and so I've got my canvas, my surface is pretty stuck where it's at. I can't really move it around, but you can flip yours around and side to side, and you don't have to paint straight up and down the whole time. So use that to your advantage too. I would be flipping my canvas around if I wasn't stuck to painting upright like this. Just about finished. Go around here. Again, don't forget to wrap your canvas as you go. Just get in here in this little section here. I'll come back with the detail brush and clean that part up just a little bit when I write my words on there. But this is coming along really nicely. So our background is in. Let's rinse that brush out really, really good. And now I'm going to grab a detail brush, which basically means a really small, skinny brush. I'm going to get it wet. I'm going to get into my blackish blue paint here. Basically black with a hint of blue. And like I said, I'm going to come through and clean this edge up just a little bit. You could do the same if you're not loving it. All right, no harm in that. And then I'm going to take my brush and go ahead and fill in my words. Now, I chose to write "wasn't me," and of course, if you have our paint kit and you're painting with that at home, these words are already on your canvas. If you want to say something else, you could paint right over them. You could wash them off with a wipey. Those wipies work wonders, but this is the saying I wanted to put in mine. course, maybe it was you. And you can write that in there. You can write, it was me. Okay, so just use your detail. And of course, be very careful as you do this. But you can use your own handwriting and get creative with whatever it is you want to say in your bubble. A good tip whenever we're using a detail brush also is to make sure your paint isn't too thick. If it's thick and sticky, I always say it'll feel like you're painting with Elmer's glue, then you won't be able to paint very well. You won't be able to get good lines and good strokes. Your canvas, your surface won't be filling very easily. It'll be kind of a fight. So be sure that you're using your water whenever you need to. Okay, come around here. Almost got our first word in. Was not me. Of course, my kids always get excited when it is them. They love that. All right, so just keep at it. This is kind of tedious work, but definitely worth it. We've got our M over here to do. I kind of like to outline it first and then go for it. This is why we have to be so nice. I always tell my artists you have to be so nice to your detail brushes, because it's times like these when you really want them to have a good hair day. And if we're not nice to our detail brushes, we'll give them a bad hair day, and then they won't give us a good result. So always be nice and gentle with your detail brushes. Okay, there we go. Wasn't me is on there. Okay, let's keep going with our detail brush. We just have a few lines to put into our character, and this will go pretty quick. I'm just loosening up my paint with some water. Now our character is pretty much outlined because of our background. We're just going to add a few more lines. I want to do that line right between sort of the backpack, or that back part of him, right there, separating it. So I'm just going to come through here. I'm just going to pull that line all the way up. All the way up through there. Come down here, thicken it up. There we go. And then we're going to put a nice outline around a big eye piece here. Okay, so just nice and easy. Again, this will be nearly impossible to do if your paint isn't nice and thin for you. So make sure you take the time and add the water to it. Okay, and we'll just connect these. I always like to do them in sections, my outlines in sections. Helps me feel like I've a little more control. Okay, the last little bit we're going to put a line in is down here. We're just going to pull that through just like that. All right, you guys, so close to our finale. Okay, back to my big brush. Make sure it's nice and clean, and then I'm just going to wring it gently out. You can see I just run my fingers through it. I want there to be water in there still, and I'm going to dip a corner in white paint, brush it through, and I'm going to add some highlights to our character here. Now be careful if you've got a lot of paint wet here. You don't want any wet paint, so be careful around the lines you just did. If your background's not dry yet, you want to be careful with that. We're just going to add some little scuffs here and there. Do one right underneath here. Okay. I like to kind of pull it up on the toe of my brush first, then around. Come down here on this side. So this is just water and white paint, okay? So nothing fancy about it, but the water helps it not look too sharp of a line, okay? Then we're just gonna kind of scuff up some parts. Obviously, I don't feel like this guy would be scuff-free, so I'm just gonna scuff it up a little bit here. Okay. So just like so. And you can really add this wherever you want. It's looking pretty good. Okay, let's just flip our brush around. Use it like a stamp to put our stars in. Now the trick to making this look like stars and not snow is remember that stars will be clustered together. So be sure to have some clusters and some that are kind of by themselves. And you can switch to your detail brush if you want your dots to be a bit smaller. Okay. Just have fun with this as you put these all around. Of course, this guy is in space, so gotta make this look like it. If you want some to be smaller, it's less pressure, less paint. The bigger ones you want to load up your brush pretty generously. But make sure you have a nice drip of paint on the bottom of your brush. That'll help you get a nice dot. Okay, just a few more. Remember who the star of the show is, though. We don't want to over star our canvas. We want the focus to be our awesome character. Okay, you guys, that is it. Let's go ahead and sign our name. So do that, I would suggest, with a detail brush. I'm going to do it in white paint. Kind of loosen it up a little bit. I'm going to come over here and sign my name right there. Thank you so much for painting with me. I would love to see your painting, so tag us on social media or send us your pictures and give us a thumbs up if you like this video. We'll see you guys next time.